we have been talking about the growth of an organization and how the growth also categorizes the organizations like line and staff, and also we spoke about the organizational chart. Now, I will go to a next sort of area in the sort of fundamental area in an organization, the authority, the power, how it is divided and how the authority is also categorized, how it is grouped. Because the knowledge about different authority will give you sort of a comfort when you go and work in an organization. There are a lot of conflicts, there are a lot of fights between managers because people don't understand different types of authorities. That will give them a lot of areas of concern and then conflicts and eventually fighting. That is why we should learn and roughly have an idea about different type of authorities in an organization. And these are also not which I have decided, I have with my experience wrote down. These are coming from theories of organizational behavior. Authority, responsibility and accountability. Now, authority is the manager's formal and legitimate right, legal right to make decisions, issue orders, and allocate resources to allocate or organizationally desired outcome. That is the power of the manager. Power of the manager. It is given legally that when you are appointed as a manager, the people who are under you are supposed to follow your orders because that is a legal authority. So, authority is a manager's formal and legitimate, formal and legal right to make decisions, to take a decision on your side, issue orders, tell people to do this, that, and allocate resources and give necessary resources to organize the desired outcomes. That is the authority given to you as a manager by your appointment. Then that is the main most important thing. We will discuss about different types of authority in next slide. Then the other topic is the responsibility. Responsibility means an employee's duty to perform assigned tasks or activities. Anybody, either manager or your subordinate or your boss, they all have the responsibility. What is responsibility in an organization? They are the duty of them to perform what they are to do. When you are given an appointment, when a person is given an appointment, they have to do that. That is his responsibility. If you become a teacher, his responsibility is teaching. He has to teach. If you have become an engineer, his responsibility to perform as an engineer. It is his responsibility, his duty. Authority is the power given legally. Responsibility is your duty. The third one is accountability. This is actually sometimes lacking in the Sri Lankan system. Accountability means that those with authority and responsibility must report and justify the outcomes to those above them in the chain of command. You have to, accountability is that you have to justify what you did. You are accountable. If you only have the authority and if you only have the responsibility, you can do something. They say, I am responsible for this mistake, you can say. But if the mistake costs the organization, you are accountable to it. If you do some wrong decision and if it costs 1,000 rupees to the organization, you are accountable for 1,000 rupees. If you want to buy sand or cement for a work site and you take the decision, and you are not only, that is your responsibility to do the decision, but you are accountable. Accountable means that you are to have the responsibility to your top, your organization, your owner, that you have responsibility to do it correctly. That is, you have to justify. Accountability is justification. You have to tell why you did this, why you do that. That is the accountability. So that if you plan and work as a manager, you have these three things to remember. One is you have authority to do that. You have to use the authority and also use it properly. and use your authority to get things done. And also you have responsibility. You have national level responsibility, but in a work site you have responsibility towards your organization to perform the job that you are appointed. Then the accountability. Don't play fool. Do the good thing. The politicians have a problem. They are doing any damn thing and getting scot-free because they are not accountable, because they lose the election and then they go home and they are not accountable. Wrong decisions are made. When I had to take decisions, sometimes as an educational department head of the ITUM, I always had my rest. I knew that I have authority to do this. I knew that I am responsible for I have a responsibility towards the nation also and do a duty. And also I knew I will be accountable for everybody in the future. Whatever I have done, I will be accountable. So I was careful, but also efficient, because I knew these three things, and that is why we are teaching you these three important attributes of a manager: the authority, responsibility, and accountability. We will discuss more on authority. There are different type of authorities, because that is where the conflict comes. Unless you understand your type of authority, the conflicts come. What is the three different types of authorities are: the line authority, the functional authority, and the staff authority. Shall we see what are these things? Where managers have the formal power to direct and control immediate subordinates are the line authority. The people who are just below you on the line. Now, if you are a construction superintendent, there will be a foreman and the construction workers under you. They are under you directly. So that is your line authority. The superior issues the orders and is responsible for the result. You give them, ask them to do these things, and you are responsible for the result. The subordinates have to obey, and they are only responsible for executing the order. Even if it goes wrong, they can't do anything because they are asked to do that by the boss. A person having line authority is directly responsible for the results of a certain department or a group of workers. They are directly responsible. There is a group of people under you, that is the line authority. They are under your line. Then you get the functional authority. Now, if you say the production manager have a line authority to decide a new machine is needed, but the legal manager, the legal manager has the functional authority to interfere in the purchase. So if you are a production manager, he has the line authority to buy his machines to produce his good. But the legal officer can come and advise him, no, don't buy that. Because according to the Sri Lankan law, this machine cannot be used in this place. So the legal authority, the legal person giving an authority, that is called functional authority. Because it's a legal function, right? Where the managers have formal power, a specific subset of activities. Legal manager, finance manager, or internal audit department. They can put their finger in from outside and block. So they have an authority. So that is called the functional authority, because its function is legal affair. It's not the line authority, because the production manager is not under the legal manager. He is not under, but legal manager can block things. That's called functional authority. This authority would not be functional, but it would rather be staff authority if such interference is advised rather than order. But if the legal officer go and stop buying that machine, is the order, then it is a functional authority. But same time, if you go to the third time, there are sort of advice given. That is called, that is not a sort of big authority, it's an advice only. But you get the third category called staff authority, or the advisory authority. This authority is granted to staff specialists in their area of expertise. It is not a real authority in the sense that a staff manager does not order or instruct, but simply advises, recommends and counsels in the staff specialist area of expertise, and is responsible only for the quality of the advice. The primary responsibility of the most staff department is to serve and advise the line department. Again, line and staff organization comes, the staff authority is like advisory authority. If the if the human resources manager, HR manager comes and advises that you can't recruit, he advises and says, don't recruit people more than 50 years of age to this machine. So the other has to either accept that advice or not. It's a sort of a staff authority or this advisory authority of the HR department. So three different types of authorities. Earlier I told you that there are the three different major attributes called authority, responsibility and accountability. In this slide you can see authority, accountability. And now I have spoken to you about different types of authority, line authority, functional authority and the staff authority. So then we go to different topics of organizational theory. Delegation. So giving work to others. So giving your power to others. If you are a manager, you giving your power to others. Now you are a manager. So you have to transfer responsibility and authority to somebody. Now, if you are a construction superintendent in the work site, you have to, if you have to go out or you are on leave tomorrow because you have to attend a wedding, so you have to give your next in command. You will say another superintendent or another foreman, you give them your authority and come. That is called delegation. Delegation is very important. Also, it has to be carefully done. There are managers who completely fail in their duties because they don't want to delegate work. There are managers who are always delegating and he is not doing anything and give all the work to others, delegate. So both are very bad sometimes. So you have to have a balance. That is why we have to learn about delegation. Delegation is a process managers use to transfer authority and responsibility to positions below them. Organizations today tend to encourage delegation from the highest to lowest possible level. They say better delegate. Don't try to keep everything on your pocket. Give it to others to decide. Delegation can improve flexibility to meet customers' needs and adaptation to competitive environment. So delegation will sort of help the making the organization bright. But delegation has become a problem to the managers. He is scared. You give the power to others, don't know whether he will do mad thing in the power given. That is why managers are finding it very difficult to delegate. That is why unless it is absolutely needed, people sometimes don't delegate. But in my lifetime as a manager, I have I keep a control in the sense that I learn about my subordinates and pick up them and delegate my authorities, and I have never had any difficulty, maybe one or two. So delegation is a good thing, although managers are finding it difficult to delegate, is reluctant to do that. So delegation is a key word in a management. So to end up the organization theory lectures, I will talk about two organizational principles, two important principles. Sometimes when you see these two, like unity of command principle and the span of control principle, when you first read it and also when I first explain it, you will find it, what is this? But if you try to bury yourself into these topics and learn, you will find that they are useful. But not only that, when you start working somewhere, even in another 20 years' time, you will remember that this lecture and know how important it was, unity of command principle and span of control principle. If people don't follow these two principles well, their organization become messy, they have become failures. They have personal failures as well as organization failures. What are these two principles? Unity of command principle in one single word in myself is that anybody in any organization should have only one boss. If one man has two bosses, then it will be a big problem. So even if I have two bosses, I only have to identify, you have to identify only one boss for one person, and other boss has to pass the information through the boss who are identified. When I used to go to many organizations, I ask, Some people, who is your boss? People are finding it difficult to tell. But my second question always is that when you go on leave, to whom you are giving your leave application? Then I give it to them. And I used to say that is your boss. Even other people give you work all right, but it had to come through this one boss. It is not that all the organizations has only one boss. Any employee should have one person as his boss. Or on the other way, there should be a unity of command. Command should be unity, not a widespread the multi-command. So this principle said that everyone in an organization should report to and be accountable to only one boss. When sometimes I have seen students in an exam says, when somebody asks what is unity of command principle, they say any organization has only one boss. No, wrong. It's not any organization has only one boss. Any employee should have only one person to report to. Only one boss. There can be several bosses for others, but there is only one boss to one man. So, in any organization, everyone in an organization should report to and be accountable to only one boss. Not that everyone will have only one boss. Everyone has one boss principle. This superior is responsible for evaluating performance or for passing down orders and information and for developing subordinates. Adhering to unity of command principle is important for following reasons. It prevents duplication and conflict when orders are passed down. I have seen in some organizations there is an electrician, but there are 2 or 3 superintendents of civil construction superintendents, they get work out of that man. But unless you put that man under one of those superintendents and ask the other 2 superintendents if they want to get work done, ask me first, then I'll send my man. Otherwise, what will happen is that electrician will always say, I went to other work. He is no responsible to anybody. He is not there in the office, not there in the work site. So that it prevents duplication. Unity of command principle. So as a manager, you must always see to it that you had the unity of command principle to yourself and to your subordinate. It decreases the confusion and buck passing. That means you are telling, no, I was there, he's not there. It provides the basis for superiors and subordinates to develop a knowledge of each other. Now, if one electrician is under one superintendent, that 2 people know. This man knows, okay, this man's house is like this, his wife is now sick, he had this problem last week, because only one boss. And others can go through this one boss and get the work out of the man. That is all right, but there should be one boss principle. Then it provides the opportunity for the supervisor and subordinate to develop supportive relationships. It promotes morale also. So always this unity of command principle is a principle where any person in an organization will have one boss. Not that all have one boss, but somebody has boss. Then the second principle is span of control principle. That is also sometimes the whole organizational world, especially in the construction sector also, they make this mistake. Because any person, any manager can have a limited span. Span is the area or the span. I raise my hand like this and say, okay, this is my span of control. If I am a superintendent, construction superintendent or engineering assistant, I can have maximum of 30 people. I can't have 100 people working under me. So if there are 100 people, I have to have 3 units. And you have to have 3 or 4 units. And then I have 4 unit heads, then they will control 10 each. So likewise, there is a limited capacity to one man. So that there is a span of control for everybody. If I have 50 people working as masons and carpenters in my organization, I can't have one supervisor. He will then look after 50 people, is impossible. He has to have, you have to divide it into 4 units or 5 units, 10 people each. There will be a senior boss or some supervisor under every unit, and then the 5 supervisors are supervised by a technical officer. So technical officer will have 5 supervisors to look after. One supervisor will have 5 10 workers to look after. Then if the supervisors, these units are not broken, you should have had one technical officer looking after 50 people. So that is above the span of control of him. So span of control principle is divide the groups to a controllable level by the manager. Now take the case of ITUM. If ITUM had one director and lecturers in all the sections, you can't, the director will have to look after all the lecturers. No, now it is divided into departments, civil, mechanical, electrical. So director will have meetings and the discussion with the heads of the department. Then head of the department will go and discuss with the lecturers in that department. So head of the department will have only about 15 people to talk to, and the director will have only about 10 people to talk to. So that is the span of control principle. It is generally observed that higher a manager in an organization, fewer the number of people reporting directly to him. Now, if the foreman has 10 carpenters working under him, but superintendent will have only 5 foremen, because 5 foremen will have 10 carpenters each, means 50 carpenters. So foreman have 10 people to look after superintendent will have only 5 people to look after. So when you go up in the career, number of people you will be relating or discussing is going to be less. That is the span of control principle. So I have discussed with you now 2 major principles called span of control principle, span of control principle, and the unity of command principle. Both these principles are useful, but people don't understand sometimes this theory very well. In the exams, sometimes I see people give sort of wrong answers. It is far better to spend some time, read through them very well, understand it. Oh, if you don't understand, discuss with the others and pick it up. These 2 principles are very useful, not only as examinable subject in the exams, but as a manager when you start working. These 2 principles should be kept in your mind. The people who have not learned management well, you will find in your workplace, even your bosses don't follow this principle. But in my life, when I had to work in organizations, I have even taught this to the senior managers and got them to work like this so that I have less problems in my organization. That is the end of the second set of lectures, that is lecture number 2. Under the lecture number 2, we discuss about the organizational theory. So that is the end of this lecture, which is called organizational theory. All right, thank you.
Don't forget to subscribe this channel for more of the very latest videos.